Yes, grade 11s, welcome back. It's exam preparation time. Now we are looking at question 4 of this question paper. Okay, so what is it that it's given to us on this question paper? So here they are saying to us, okay, question 4, given the quadratic pattern, negative 12, negative 8, 0, 12, right? So they're telling us already that this term it's quadratic. 4.1, determine the next two terms of the pattern. So they want us to determine the next two terms of the pattern, right? So how do you do that? Let me write down this question. Question 4. You said this is a question on patterns as well. And in this case, we are talking of quadratic. Okay. So we have seen that on 4.1, they want us to determine the next two terms, right? So which terms were we given? They gave us negative 12, negative 8, 0, and 12, right? And this so happens to be negative term number 1, this term number 2, term number 3, and term number 4. So the next two terms, they mean term number 5 and term number 6, right? These are the terms that they want us to find. So for now, it's blank. We don't know what is it going to become, okay? So now, they mentioned that this pattern here is quadratic, right? And one thing that we know about quadratic is the first difference is never the same. So if you say here negative 8 minus, you see, this is something one you must be careful of. You see, remember we find a difference by saying negative 8. This is the negative 8, right? Negative upon 8. Then minus. The minus is the minus for getting the difference. What is the same here? It's negative 12. So minus negative 12. So be careful of such cases, okay? And I'm getting here 4. And then you come to this one, you come to that one there, it's 0 minus for subtraction, and then this term here is negative 8, okay? Please be careful of cases like this. So I get 8 here, and then this one here is going to be 12 minus 0. I'm just doing it, but it's 12, you see. So this one here, 8 minus 4, right? 8 minus 4, we know that is going to give us 4, okay? And then 12 minus 8, that is also going to give us 4, right? Now, for us to find this pattern here, what are you supposed to do? We are supposed to extend, right? So if we see that the difference here, the same difference, which is the second difference, right? Second difference, the one that is the same. If you see that it's 4, right? So it means in extending, we are going to extend by a 4 here, right? And then if you extend by a 4 here, what is going to be here? It's going to be 12 plus the 4, right? And 12 plus 4, it's going to be 16. And then to find this term here, what is it going to be? It's going to be 12 plus this 16. 12 plus that 16 there, what is it going to be? That is going to be 28, right? And then extending, we got term number 5. We've seen one term number 5 and term number 6. So we will now have term number 5. We extend again, okay? And then when we extend again, 16 plus 4, that is going to give us the difference that is going to be here, which is 20, right? And then 28 plus 20, that is going to give us term number 6. So 20 plus 28, that is 48. So you see, we have managed to get the next two terms. We have managed to get the next two terms. So we are saying here, term number 5 is 28, and term number 6 is 48. So we managed to get the next two terms. And that is how you're supposed to work it out. This is something that you are being tested on in this question paper. So this is what those who were rating this were being tested on, okay? And yeah, that makes us to move on to the next question. The next question here, it says determine Tn, the general term of the pattern in the form Tn is equals to an squared plus bn plus c, okay? So, 4.2, they want us to find the general formula, right? they want us to find the general formula. And the general formula, we know that is Tn is equals to an squared plus bn plus c, right? So for us to find the general formula, we need to find the value of a, right? We need to find the value of a, we need to find the value of b, and we also need to find the value of c, right? So how are we going to go about finding the value of a? To find the value of a, right, we know that the value of a, it corresponds to the second difference, right? So we know that for us to find the value of a, we take the second difference and we equate it to 2a. So 2a is equals to 4, right? That's how we find the first value of a. So here we can see that a is equals to 4 divided by 2. And 4 divided by 2, what is it going to become? 4 divided by 2, that is 2, okay? See, it's so funny that I'm doing 4 divided by 2 on the calculator. I know myself, like I've been even, I know, like I just train myself to use the calculator. I don't rely on my mind. My mind, I don't trust it. It has got a tendency of degenerating, you know. And then we find the value of A. So now what is next is to find the value of B, right? We know that the value of B is equals to the first difference that you got, right? And in this case here, it's 4. So we know that this difference, we have to say, we find it by saying, the value of B find it by saying 3a plus b is equals to the first value of the first difference. This whole thing here is the first difference. What is the first value in the first difference? That is a 4. So always 3a plus b is equals to the first value of the first difference. And in this case, it's 4. Now we have the value of a then. So we're going to say 3 multiplied by 2 plus b is equals to 4, right? 3 multiplied by 2, that is a 6, okay? Plus a b is equals to 4. So b here is going to be equal to 4 minus this one here is positive this side. When it comes this side, it's going to be negative 6, right? And 4 minus 6, that is a negative 2. Please just do that with the calculator so that you avoid making mistakes. Yes, the network is acting up, but we are going to thrive. Don't worry. Now, we now have the value of b and the value of a. What is left for us to find? It's the value of c, right? How do you find the value of c? We use the expression a plus b plus c. A plus b plus c is always equal to the first term of the pattern. And the first term of the pattern in this case is what? It is negative 12, right? So a plus b plus c is going to be equal to negative 12, okay? This is the first term of the pattern. We found the value of a, found the value of a to be 2, right? And then we find the value of b to be negative 2, so plus negative 2, and this is plus c, and this is equals to negative 12, right? So you see, 2 plus negative 2, these two, they're going to take care of each other, they're going to give us 0. So it means c in this case is equals to negative 12. So what is that you see? We have the value of a, right? We have the value of a, we have the value of b, and you have the value of c, right? So what is left is to simply substitute in this equation. To say, okay, the value of a here is going to be 2n squared. B here, that is what? Negative 2n, right? And then c there, that is negative 12. And this so happen to be the general term of the pattern. So that is how it is. Now, moving on. So moving on, we are now faced with what? Question number 4.3, right? So what is this question 4.3 saying? So it says here, between which two consecutive terms does the first difference of 192 lie? Now, this question, let me interpret it for you, let me interpret it for you. Let's take in the terms that we have already found. So this is what question number 4.3, right? So I want to give you a general way in which this question is, okay? Because some people happen not to understand what is it that is supposed to be found here. So now we have seen that The first term there was negative 12, we had a negative 8, okay, 0, 12, okay, then 28, okay. So this was what? Term number 1, term number 2, term number 3, term number 4, term number 5, okay. Let me just put the term number 6 that we found. Term number 6, right, which is 48, right? So on finding the differences, what did we find? We found 4, we found 8, right? We found 12, we found 16, right? We found after 16 there was a 20 here, and here we got 4, 4, 4, and here there was a 4 as well, right? So now what is it that is happening here? We all understand that this is the first difference, right? We all understand that this is the first difference. Now, the first difference, it's a pattern on its own, right? On the first difference, you see, this is what? This is term number 1, term number 2, term number 3, term number 4, term number 5, right? Now, if you look at the relationship between the term numbers of the quadratic number pattern, right, and the term numbers of the first difference, right, it follows that it follows this. You see, this one is term number 1 here. This one is going to be term. The difference between term number 1 and term number 2, right? It is term number 1 for the linear pattern, for the first difference pattern, right? This is what you see, right? So what can you say? If this part here, it is Tn, right? Right? And you see, how do you move from term number 1 to term number 2? You added 1, right? If this term here is what? The difference, the first, okay, if this one is 1, if this one here is Tn here, the difference that you're going to have here is going to be what? Tn, right? On this linear pattern. This is quadratic, right? And this is first difference. So I'll give you this as the general guideline, right? So now let's go back to the question. What is it saying to us? So the question here, it says to us, it says here, between which two consecutive terms does the first difference of 192 lies, right? So we all understand that on our pattern, okay, we're going to have a certain pattern here, which is Tn, and then the next pattern that is going to follow it is going to be what? Tn plus 1, right? And then with it being 10 plus 1. So here it so happened that we have a certain pattern in the first difference, which is what? According to this question, which is 192, okay? That's what the question is saying to us here. This pattern is 192. Where is it? This is it. This is the one here that I'm talking about. This pattern here, it is 192, right? So, which two consecutive terms does the first difference 192 lie, right? So we have to find these two terms here, right? So to find the two terms, we simply have to find Tn in the first difference, right? Simply have to find Tn in the first difference so that that Tn will equate to the first term of the two consecutive terms. Let's hold on to it. Two consecutive terms that you're supposed to find, okay? So that is how this question is supposed to be solved. So if you find Tn, that is going to be Tn will correspond to one of the terms, and the other term you're just going to add 1 to that term, and then you get the answer to those two consecutive terms. Now we want to find n for Tn equal to 192 on the first differences, right? Now we don't know the pattern for the first differences, so we have to find the formula first, right? So how do you find the formula? So we know that for the linear pattern, this part here, if you take this part here, the linear pattern, right? It follows that Tn is equals to An plus C, right? And A here in this case is just 4, right? So we're gonna have Tn is equals to 4n plus C, okay? Now, if I let n to be 1, if I let n to be equal to 1, what am I going to have? I'm going to have here 1 equal to 4 multiplied by 1 by c, right? And term number 1 is going to be equal to 4. 4 times 1, that's 4 plus c. And then what is term number 1 in this case? You can see here it is equal to 4, okay? So I'm going to solve this part to get my c. So what means I'm going to have 4 plus c is equals to 4. So here c is equals to what? C is equals to 4. I take this 4 across. I have 4 minus 4. Yo, this thing is not projecting. Oh my God. But yeah, I hope you'll be able to follow here, right? So 4 minus 4, this is 0. So it means for the linear pattern, Tn is just 4n, right? So if you find n here, finding n there, finding n doesn't make sense, right? We want to find n for Tn equal to 192. So Tn, which is this part here, is equal to 192, right? So we're solving for this part now. 4n is going to be equal to 192, right? And then n is equals to 192 divided by 4. And what is 192 divided by 4? 192 divided by 4. Let me just calculator there. 192 divided by 4. I hope you'll be using a calculator now. This is 48, right? This is 48. So the fact that you go for 8 here, and remember what I said, if this part here, if I put my branch, right, I get my branches like this. I have blah, blah, blah here, and then I have blah, blah, blah here, right? Now I'm saying this is Tn, and we saw that n there it is 48, right? And there it is 48. I'm using this branch that I'm talking about. Okay, I said it's Tn. So we found the n here is 48. So if n is 48 here, the n is the very same n here, right? It's gonna be 48 here. So it's gonna be 10 over 48, right? 10 over 48, and n plus 1, that is gonna be 49. So it means the two patterns that they're talking about is 10 over 48 and term number 49. So in that way, you will have solved that question, which is on 4.3. So yeah, that is how it is. So just take note of that general thing that I gave you here. If you can take this into your account every time you are solving linear patterns of this form, trust me, you're not going to improve. Now let's move on to the next question. What is the next question asking of us to do? So here, the next question says here on 4.4. 4.4 here it says a new pattern, right? Pn is formed, right? And it is given that Pn is equals to Tn minus 148, right? Pn is equals to Tn minus 148. So determine the number of negative patterns in the new term, right? So they want us to find the number of negative patterns in the new term. So now, that is what the question wants us to do, right? We must respond to the question by what we have, okay? So let me just put it this way. I want to analyze it for you, okay? So the question says we must determine number of negative terms, okay? Must find number of negative terms, right? So we know that a term is in the new pattern is of the form Pn, right? So how many Pn's are going to be negative? That is what the question is saying to us, right? So do we know the general formula for Pn? How many Pn's are going to be negative? So the fact that they're saying Pn is negative, right? So it means Pn has to be less than 0. Those that are less than 0, how many are they, right? That are less than 0. How many Pn's are less than 0? So how many? It means we have to find n, okay? We have to find n. But the question is, do we know Pn? We just know that Pn here, according to the question, this is what they told us. Pn is Tn minus 198, right? This is what we just know. We just know that it's equal to Tn minus 198, right? And we have Tn. we have Tn. What is Tn? Tn is equals to, let's see, Tn, we found that for the quadratic pattern, it's what? We found that Tn, it's 2n squared minus 2n minus 12, right? This is what we found. This is what we found, okay? So now, in solving P for Pn, right? We want to find Pn. So it means here, we're going to say Pn is equals to, we have already seen that is equals to Tn. What is Tn? Tn is 2n squared minus 2n minus 12, right? This is what you've seen for Tn. And then everything minus 198, okay? So now, what is it that we're going to have? We're going to have 2n squared. We are removing the bracket, minus 2n minus 12 minus 198. And this is equal to what? 2n squared minus 2n negative 12 minus 198. This is negative 210. So you have your calculator with you there. So you just be solving this with the calculator. Negative 210, right? So we now have Pn, right? We have Pn. So this is what I've said, that we have to find n, right? For those that are going to be less than 0, okay? So n, how is it going to be there? So n, this is my what? This is my Pn, remember? 2n squared. Pn here, I'm just going to put my Pn, which is 2n squared minus 2n minus 210, and I make it to be less than 0, right? How many are going to be the values of n that I'm going to get here? They are going to give me how many are going to be less negative, right? So now let's go. Let's work it out. Let's work it out. So now you see this thing here, right? It needs us to have factors, like always. Remember, we will have to find factors, right? And then because it's an inequality, it is taking the form of an inequality, we'll have to have that table, right? And that table, it has to be there, plus, minus, and then plus here. And this one is just less than, so we don't have to shade the dots. And then we'll put our values here, and then we'll conclude. So this is how the question is to be solved. So now, okay, here you see 2 is common. So we can reduce this by 2, by dividing it out by 2. So I'm going to have n squared here minus n. 210 divided by 2, that is negative 105. Negative 105, and everything here is less than 0. So now, remember, factorization is a problem. What do? We just use our quadratic formula, right? So in using the quadratic formula, what are you going to have? You're going to have negative b. What is b? B, it's 1, so that is negative 1 there. I'm starting with the minus, right? I'm just using the quadratic formula from my head, you see, but you can write it down if you know you're going to have problems with substitution. So I'm just using the quadratic formula from my head. In my case, minus 4 multiplied by 1 multiplied by c, that is negative 105 divided by 2 times a, which is 1, right? And what do I get? Not sure if what I'm doing here is correct or what. Okay. For this one, I'm getting that thing that you're seeing there. So let's just see SD. Negative 9.759. If it's so even that I made a mistake, you will work it out. You know, I'm a human being, I'm not a robot now, you see. I make mistakes. And then let me see this one. Plus, and then this one is 10.759, right? So, okay. Now, terms that are negative, right? Terms that are negative. So it so happened that terms that are negative, right, are going to be terms. You see, we can't work with negative terms. Pn can't be negative. So Pn, I'm saying here, it can't be negative, right? So here, what we are seeing is we have, where are we going to have negative terms? I think we want to find negative terms. How many are they going to be? We want to find n. So we're going to have a n terms that are going to be negative, right? So Pn will have negative terms from n greater than 11, right? From n greater than 11, we're going to have n being negative terms. So any n that is greater than, because we can't take 10.759. If you substitute 10 in the new equation, let's see, 10 squared minus 2 multiplied by 10 minus 210, okay? This is negative 30. Let's see, if I substitute 9, if I substitute 9 there, it's negative 66. So what is this thing saying? It said negative, right? Oh, negative. So negative is approaching this side. So it's approaching this side. So it means n has to be less than 11. N has to be less than 11. So how many terms are negative? The number of terms that are negative. So it tells you that n is equals to 10. If n is equals to is less than 11, then the number of terms that are negative, n is equal to 10. So that is how this question will have been. So if you substitute 11, let's see, 11, you see, when you substitute 11 here, it is giving you a positive answer. So the number of terms that are negative, it is going to be n being 11 there. So that is how it is. So yeah, this question, if you have solved it the way I've done here, then I trust me, you will have gotten everything there. So, and it so happened that that was 4.4. We are now left with 4.5. 4.5, what does it say? You see, these are application questions. 4.4 and 4.5, these are application questions. 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, these are questions that everyone can get, you know. 4.5, 4.4 and 4.5, these are application questions, hence the number of marks are so much. So show that Tn is always an even number. So you have to show that Tn is always an even number, right? So for us to show that Tn is always an even number, what is it that you've seen here? I mean, it's always even, right? Okay, 4.5, right? We have Tn as what? We know that Tn is equal to 2n squared minus 2n minus 12, right? So they're saying you must always show that Tn is always going to be an even number, right? So what do we see here? This part here, 2, right? Like, look, if we put an odd number, okay, let's analyze this part here. If you want to show that it's an even number, you have to analyze the whole pattern, right? So if you take taking the 2n squared part, right? If I substitute an odd number, is always going to be doubled. It's always going to be doubled, right? And by it being doubled, if n is an odd number, that's what I'm saying. If n is an odd number, it's always going to be doubled, right? And with it being doubled, the fact that it's already doubled, it means it is even, okay? This is this part here, okay? And with me having that, right? Now, if I take in 2n minus 2n squared minus 2n with the above condition, right? With the above condition, if I subtract 2 times n, then from there, I already have an even now for this part. So this means that's a 2n squared minus 2n will be even as well, because you are subtracting from a number that is already doubled, right? And what is it that you're subtracting there? And therefore the whole of Tn, you are subtracting 12 from an even number, from a number that was doubled, that was also subtracted by 2n, 2 multiplied by n, for n that is odd, for n that is odd, it would be even, like what I've already mentioned, okay? So with that said, like, if you now come to the whole formula, right? Subtracting 12 from 2n squared minus 2n will give out an even number, you see? So this is something that you're already seeing, to say that the formula Tn equal to 2n squared. Therefore, what is the final thing? 2n minus 2n here minus 12. Like, it is always going to be even. It will always be even. So this is an application question here, and I know these people, every time they ask the last questions, they are crazy. But yeah, if you don't get this one, if say you get something like this and you don't get it, it's fine. The other questions with what? 2 plus 4, that is 6, plus 3, that is 9. You'll have gotten something that is better, 9 out of 16. 9 out of 16 is what? 9 out of 16. That's 56.25%. You'll have gotten something that is good, That is a great mark. So that is it with question 4. And this is where it ends. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.